Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new real-life car review. It's been a while since I've done a real-life car review, and the reason is I was quite busy and the weather was too bad. But finally I can start a new season, and we're kicking off with an important car, Kia's EV4, the electric counterpart to the K4, which has yet to be launched in this side of Europe. Anyway, for once it's not an SUV, but Kia chose a more traditional body style. It's available as a hatchback and as a fastback. Styling of the fastback seems to be a little bit controversial. You either like it or you strongly dislike it. I personally like it, but the hatchback was the only one available for this test. So I want to start off by having a quick walk around of the exterior. Kia's opposites united design language is pretty strong. You can like it, you can dislike it, but fact of the matter is you can spot a new Kia from a mile away. And if you see all new Kias lined up, they're all related to each other, but they don't look the same. They all have their own little tweaks, and you can tell the EVs apart from the non-EV cars. The EV4 sets a new standard for aerodynamics, and the most distinct part is this kink in the hood, and that's for aerodynamics reasons. And as I said, Kia chose more traditional body styles for the EV4, a hatchback in this case and a fastback, because they are more aerodynamic and thus more energy efficient. What Kia also has done, they moved the headlights all the way to the corner of the car. These upper trim grades get LED matrix headlights, they are fully adaptive, and the lower trim grades get a simpler bi-LED headlight system. Let's have a look at the rear end of the car. As with the EV4 Fastback, the hatchback has a real wide trunk opening. It stretches from taillight to taillight. It's almost 1.5 meters wide, which gives you a real spacious trunk opening. The Fastback doesn't have foldable rear seats, and the roofline is a little bit more sloping, so you have less rear passenger space, and also the cargo space is slightly less than the hatchback, but I'll show you that in the cargo space segment a bit later on. Another thing that I wanted to point out is this vertical line over here, the EV3, which is a bit more of a SUV hatchback crossover. This is a pure hatchback, but the point I wanted to make is the EV3 has a horizontal line in the C pillar, where the EV4 has this vertical line that goes over the roof. It's really nice to see. And another thing that I noticed when I washed the car, I could put my hand on the middle of the roof while standing on my legs. I have to stand on my toes a little bit. I had this car parked next to my Toyota Starlet, which is 32 years old. That's a tiny car, but the EV4 is only 5 centimeters taller than that car. So it's real nice to see, I think personally, in this sea of SUVs, that car brands go back to more traditional body styles without losing practicality. In fact, it's more spacious than some of the SUVs in this segment. Now, let's start off with having a peek under the hood. So let's see what lives underneath here. As you may expect, it's a very wide hood, but also it's quite light. No gas struts, just a good old hood prop. So front wheel drive car, and it's available with 2 battery sizes, 58.4 kilowatt hour, and the top trim grades get an 81.4 kilowatt hour battery. The fastback is only available with a larger battery pack. Now let's get my little booklet so I can tell you a little bit more about the ranges of the EV4. With the standard battery pack, the maximum range that you will get is 440 kilometers. If you have a higher trim grade model with a larger wheel, that is 425 kilometers. This is the top of the range model. It's a GT Plus line with everything on it, and this has a maximum range of 625 kilometers, or for this car with the larger wheel size, 584 kilometers. When I picked up this car last week from Kia headquarters, the car was fully charged. It had a range of 577 kilometers. That's really what you get with this car. Well, currently the driving circumstances are ideal. I don't have to use the heater or the air conditioner. It's late April, so real nice weather. That's when you really get the advertised range. As I said, it's a front-wheel drive car, but Kia last week introduced all-wheel drive versions for the EV3, 4 and 5, where they add an extra electric motor on the rear axle, which provides 65 horsepower and 102 newton meters of torque, and that's really to gain traction under snowy wet circumstances. That version also is more suitable for people who do a lot of towing, and the towing capacity for the all-wheel drive versions is 1500 kilos. This version with the large battery pack can tow up to 1000 kilos. Top speed is 170 kilometers an hour. And the front, I didn't even discuss the engine output. Both battery versions get the same power output, 204 horsepower, 283 newton meters. So it was until now very common when the larger battery pack would have more engine power, but Kia made it the same for both battery sizes. And I think it's a good thing. 200 horsepower and 283 newton meters is powerful for 99% of people. It doesn't overwhelm inexperienced driver, and it has a very predictable throttle response. Good choice on Kia's part, if you ask me. Charging is capable of 350 kilowatt DC fast charging, and that means that you can charge the battery from 10 to 80% in just under 30 minutes. And the onboard charger is an 11 kilowatt AC charger, and it takes around about 6 or 8 hours depending on battery size. The larger battery size will take up 8 hours. Yeah, other than that, nothing much to see here. There is no front cover here, and the simple reason is this kink in the hood. That would, if they would have a trunk, you can fit 2 little spray cans of deodorant in here, so it's not a bad thing. It has a real practical interior and a good practical trunk, as we will see. So let's have a peek in the cargo area. So the metal part of this hatch spans from taillight to taillight, and that would suggest that we have a real wide trunk opening. Well, it has, but it doesn't go all the way from taillight to taillight, because this section over here is obscured because we have the rear wheel well there. The hatchback has a standard cargo capacity of 435 liters, and when you fold the rear seats down, it increases to 1450 liters. As I said, the fastback doesn't have foldable rear seats, so you have to do with the standard cargo capacity of 490 liters, so it's slightly larger than this. But the 435 liters of this cargo area also includes this section over here, so this is less than that, but it's plenty for your weekly groceries or a weekend away with a family of 4. It's practical, it's very neatly done, LED illumination in here, there are some tie down hooks, and yeah, it's nicely upholstered, and we have this little suitcase here for the charging cable, but I like to store the charging cable down there. And speaking about charging, the charging port is on the right front of the car, just behind the right front wheel. I don't think that's the most ideal port. I'd rather have the charging port at the rear of the car, so you can back up into a parking spot, and when you have to drive away onto a road with traffic, you can at least see ahead. But hey, that's a choice Kia made. There's nothing much we can do about that. So let's close this up and have a peek in the interior. Now, the one thing that you should know about the Kia EV4 is being a hatchback means it has a lower roof, and it being an EV means it has a raised floor, so the interior space in terms of height is more limited than in a comparable SUV. I am 1.75 meters. I have the seat in its lowest position, and I just have enough headroom, so if you're any taller than me and you're interested in this car, please go test it and test fit at the dealership first. Other than that, the interior is very spacious. It has a real short dashboard, so that gives you a lot of space ahead of you. Kia has cut out the center console, and they have this area over here with a lot of storage room. There's a place for your smartphone with wireless charger, cup holders. There is some storage compartment over here in the center armrest. That's very nicely done, and the button that you would normally have over here Kia has moved to the door panel. There you have the buttons for the seat memory, the heated seats and the heated steering wheel. And also the door panels themselves are fairly flat, so we have a lot of room in terms of in front of you and in width. This interior does feel very spacious even though it's a hatchback. We have the classical screen layout from Kia with these stitched horizontal screens, and this little section over here for the HVAC where you can adjust the heaters. It is partially obscured by the steering wheel, but it doesn't matter. I noticed that the HVAC, the heater, works so well that once you have your temperature set, you can leave it at that temperature all year long. And you also see this little cross, and when you touch that you get the HVAC controls over here in the screen. But Kia have also added just physical buttons for the temperature setting for both the driver and the passenger, and you can switch the modes for the fans with this button over here. There is a physical button for the volume control, which switches the audio on and off, and it's a thumb scroll wheel. I would prefer a rotary dial that you can twist with your thumb and your index finger, but this also works well. And over here are some capacitive touch buttons. When you touch it, not sure if you'll hear it, but there is a little feedback, a little vibration that you feel. And this is for the main controls of the infotainment system. This has a very clean layout, and there are tons of settings that you can do. It's very easy to use, very simple to understand. Here is the instrument cluster. I would like this to have a traditional layout with emulated analog gauges, but this is what you have. I find this a little bit difficult to read. The one small issue that I have with this car is the indicator stalk and the readout of the selected gear. This upper section of the stalk is obstructed by this spoke of the steering wheel from my riding position, and when I switch it over, and let me close the door for that so I can demonstrate. When I put it in D, you can see the D is illuminated in orange, and there's a real small D over there. Let's go back to park. But I just wish that indication on the instrument panel in this screen was just a little bit obvious, a little bit larger, and that's the only issue I have with that. Behind the steering wheel there are the pedals for the regen braking. There are a ton of modes. I always have it in iPedal level 1, and that suits my need. I don't have the urge to constantly use these pedals to change the regen setting. And the button for the drive mode is over here, and when I push it we have 5 different drive modes. I leave it in normal because that really suits my needs. And having a look at the seats, this is the GT line. Oh, and that also has this nice tilting and sliding sunroof. I'm just gonna open this little curtain so I have a little bit more light. Kia has this real nice headrests, which are a sort of hammocks for your head. They are really soft and they are really comfortable. And in this GT line you get this two-tone seats. They are very good. What I like about them are the fact that the seats are very tall. The seats themselves are long, so you have a lot of support for your upper legs, and there is plenty of bolstering in the seat back. You really have a firm and comfortable seating position. Other than that, the interior is very well designed, great ergonomics, a nice mix of digital controls, physical controls. This is very well thought out. There's a ton of technology in here, but it doesn't bother you if you don't know how to use it or if you don't want to use it. The actual physical interior space is just top notch. Let's have a look in the rear passenger space. This top trim level has electric door handles that pop out when you unlock the car, and as you can see the door opens real wide, almost to a 90-degree angle, so ingress, egress is super easy. Again, this is an EV with a raised floor, so you sit quite low in relation to the floor, so you have your knees pulled up. So I don't have a lot of support in my upper legs. For smaller children this is good enough, but you have to keep in mind if you do take passengers along on the rear seat, adult passengers that is, it is a little bit exhausting, and I can barely my toes underneath the driver's seat in my driving position. I have, well, not the most headroom, but it's enough, and that is when you have the fastback, the roofline is more sloping, so for taller persons the fastback isn't ideal in the rear. Anyway, I do have a lot of leg room, and the seating position, the angle of the seat and the seat back is actually real nice. So it's not a real bad place to be, and it has quite large windows so they have a good visibility towards the outside. So do the window test first. For smaller kids the view towards the outside is good enough. And yeah, this is the GT line that has this dark interior that darkens up the interior quite a bit, especially in the rear. But you see the bright highlights on the seat back, these typical Kia plastic panels with the USB outlets and this little holder for papers and documents. The rear passengers do get their own vents, but there is no temperature control, and a small cubby over there and an armrest with 2 cup holders. Nothing fancy apart from the electric heaters on the rear seat, which is nice to have in an electric car, especially in winter time. It's quick to heat up the body when you don't want to use the heater to save a little bit of battery. But it's a downside that all EVs have. Oh yeah, and we have nice LED reading lights over here. So yeah, in terms of height it is a bit limited, and it's a bit dark in this GT line trim version, but other than that it's not a bad place to be. So I think it's about time we go for a drive. And we're on our way. It's a nice and quiet day for a comfortable cruise. The overspeed warning can be silenced by holding the volume button down for a couple of seconds. Then you can see the indicator flash, but it doesn't beep at you anymore. And the lane departure warning can be switched by holding the lane departure warning button down, and by a short push of that button you can activate or deactivate the steer assist. When you start using the cruise control, both systems automatically re-engage, or at least the lane departure warning, lane assist does. You can always easily switch on and off the steer assist by a short push of that button. Now, how does the EV4 drive? Well, I would say it drives exceptionally well. If you ask 100 different people how they want their car to drive, you get 100 different answers. But I think the EV4 is set up in such a manner that it really suits the needs and wants of 99 of those people. And the odd one out probably is an automotive journalist, because we always have something to complain. But there is very, very little to complain about the ride and handling and comfort of this car. If you're looking for a quiet cruiser with good energy efficiency, the EV4 is that car. If you're more of a spirited driver and you want an engaging car to drive that's fun to handle, has good steering feel, nice weighted and balanced steering, the EV4 is that car. So it really suits the need of, say 99% of the average car drivers. And even if you're a bit more critical on comfort or ride dynamics and steerings, the EV4 does it just fine. And that's basically all you need to know about the ride and handling of this car. It's quiet, and it's especially quiet since it has good aerodynamics, so there's hardly any wind noise in this car. It's super quiet. The only thing that you hear are the tires, but then again, if you would actually measure it with a decibel meter, you would have real low readings. And the only thing that I notice it is because that the simple fact that the car is so quiet. Now, in the interior segment I talked about the regen braking and the drive modes. I have it set in level 1 as I mentioned, and level 1 is for me perfect, and I don't feel the need to constantly work these little pedals to alter the settings of the regen braking. Once you found your setting, it'll do just fine. If you really like the highway drive assist and the more advanced driver aid system, so the self-driving part of the adaptive cruise control, you can set the regen braking to an auto mode, where it really varies the amount of regen braking that it does. As said, I found my preferred setting and I have left it in that setting the entire week. And the same is true for the drive mode. There's 5 drive modes, but I think normal will suit the needs of the majority of the drivers just fine. I don't feel the urge to alter it. Yeah, the only small negatives that I can think of is the small indicator for the gear selector in the instrument cluster. And as mentioned, I cannot see the readout on the stalk, the selector stalk over here, but that's just minor. And it's now a nice bright and sunny day. It's a little bit overcast, but when you have the sunlight coming through the side window on the center console, it can be pretty hard to read the script on these capacitive touch buttons over there. So if you want to use the search function or go to the map, these shortcut buttons are a little bit hard to read because it's white background lighting in a white surround, but to be honest, that's just nitpicking. So real minor negatives, if you ask me. Yeah, what I find myself doing a lot is rest my head in this really soft cushion of the headrest. It's a real nice and comfortable seat, nice and comfortable headrest. It's a very relaxing car to drive, I will say. And I think it's a good choice from Kia to transfer from rear-wheel drive platforms to front-wheel drive platforms for their EVs, because when you enter a corner you lift the accelerator and there's a little bit of regen braking, or more of regen braking. The car is very controlled, the load shifts to the front axle and that really aids the car in steering. I pointed this out in the Ioniq 5, where the standard version is rear-wheel drive. You enter a corner, you lift the accelerator, and all of a sudden the regen braking is on the rear axle. The steering becomes a little bit light and fake, and it's almost like you pull the handbrake in a traditional car. I think for a normal EV that's intended for a large buyer demographic, front-wheel drive is the way to go. Very well done, and I think Kia has set the bar real high for itself and its competitors with the EV4. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how the EV4 drives. So let's head over to the middle of nowhere for my final thoughts. See you in a second. So it's great to be back in the middle of nowhere once again, especially with this nice weather and the birds flying around. Anyway, over the years I've tested hundreds and hundreds of cars, and on average the modern car is just good, apart from a reliability aspect, but that's a subject for a different video. Now, I try to judge the cars by the aspects that I find important and that, in my opinion, are important for the average car buyer. And some cars excel in one point, are mediocre at other points, and on average they are good cars. Worth the money? That's up to you. It's different for the Kia EV4. If I have to rate the aspects that I find important and that I show in these real-life car reviews, if I have to rate each aspect on a scale from 1 to 10, the lowest grade it would get would be an 8, and that 8 is for the interior space, because the headroom is somewhat limited. Keep in mind that this car has a sunroof and that eats up a little bit of the headroom, so keep that in mind. If you're a taller person and you like this car, go test sit and test fit at the dealership, and pick a version without the sunroof. That gives you a little bit more clearance above your head. But overall, the interior space in terms of width and depth and storage capabilities is very good. 9s and 10s are there for the suspension and the drivetrain and the steering setup. One thing that I really like is that Kia hasn't thrown a ton of power in this car. Just over 200 horsepower, a little under 300 newton meters of torque, and that's enough for the spirited driver. The suspension provides a lot of driving dynamics, but if you're a new driver or less experienced driver, that amount of power won't overwhelm you in any circumstance. It's very predictable. The throttle response is very nice, especially when you keep things in the normal drive mode. Very well balanced, very well laid out. And if you're a person that likes a comfortable cruiser, well, it's just that. And it's not just good, it's great. Basically, that's all you need to know about the Kia EV4. Just pick your body style that you like. There are a couple of colors to choose from. There is a white color that comes without any additional cost, and all other colors, yeah, come with a premium cost. Anyway, that's it for this real-life car review, and I do hope you liked following me along, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or constructive feedback, let me know down below in the comment section, and don't forget to like this video. And also, if you want to support the channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I'll leave the link for that down below in the description box. For now, I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye!